Welcome to Monday Night Live, the weekly training that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth.
So, guys, Nye and I met through Anna Jenkins, who a lot of you have been on the team for a while, met because Anna taught a class for us back, I think, it'll be 3 years of spring. And she and her husband Rick and I go back way a long time ago, 15 years ago. We were in coaching together um, and did a lot of training together. So, Anna introduced me to Nye. And now I understand you actually just taught a session for Anna back a few weeks ago, right?
Yes, yeah, January 11th.
Awesome. Yeah. So we go and get started. So this would be the beginning of class, guys. If you have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat box, and then between Andre and I, we'll be able to get to them, and now you'll be able to see those as well yourself.
Perfect, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Gary, for having me here. I'm super excited to speak to a group of real estate agents and investors because I'm one of you. Before we get started, here is a disclaimer. I'm not an attorney or a licensed accountant. So any information I share, please you have to do your due diligence and check any documents, even though I'm not giving you any legal documents today. I just want to make sure that I'm not an attorney or an accountant for those purposes. Just a little background information on me. I'm a mom. That's my full-time job. I have three boys, 14, 16, and 18. I got started in real estate about 22 years ago. As an agent first, and then I got into the investing. I renovated houses. I got into creative deal structuring and financing, and I've bought and sold more than $40 million worth of personal residential real estate. So I'm on a mission, and this came to me a couple of years ago from a couple of masterminds and groups that I surround myself with. Once I found out the opportunities that comes with creative deal structuring and financing, I felt like I won the lottery. So when I learned how to buy houses this way, the ease from it and the fact that I could solve sellers' problems and I could bring value to them, it made me feel like I needed to share this with investors all over the country. And one of my mentors, Marco Rebel, brought me on board in 2015, and I became a national coach to investors all over the country, teaching them how to buy houses creatively. So subject to and things like that. And I've been doing that since then. My first creative deal was in 2013, and we'll get into that. So today's structure, I will talk about how you can not leave money on the table. What if you had an opportunity to buy a property instead of listing it for a commission, for example? So this will just give you another approach, and I hope it will get your wheels spinning and turning to see if there's an opportunity for you to solve a seller's problem faster and creating wealth for yourself as well. So I will talk about the 3 misconceptions about creative financing, and I'll give some case studies, my value amplifier method, and our wealth roadmap, how we're doing it here on our team, Wealth Through Real Estate. And I'm happy to share with you my purchase and sales agreement. I know as a real estate agent, you most likely will have to use your state's agreement, which you can modify as well. But for anyone who's not an agent, I'm happy to share my agreement with you as well. So I realize that this is a human business. You know this. And the value, when the focus is on solving someone's problem and bringing value to them, that's the key. And most real estate agents know this already, and that's why they are successful. The ones who are successful, let me put it that way. Because we all know investors and agents who are not. Not everybody's made of the same cloth, right? So the ones that know this secret and take care of their clients and bring as much value as you can, that's what separates them from the rest. So for me, having this tool in my toolbox, learning how to structure deals creatively is the game changer. So that's what I want to talk to you today, from not only having limited solutions to help sellers out, but having more tools in your toolbox and becoming more of a value amplifier for you and for them. Here are the 3 misconceptions that we will touch on. Many people think that creative deals are hard to find. I'll show you how that's not the case. Also, people think that you will need to use your own money. That too is not the case. And people think that you have to, find houses that you need to renovate. So about 75% to 80% of the properties that I buy creatively only need cosmetic work, and some of them have not needed any work. So I'll show you how to do that as well. All right, let's get started. So this is a property I purchased in Northern Virginia. This was my first creative deal I came across back in 2013. And I found it off of Craigslist. So at the time, I was a young mom. My kids were about that age. They were little. And in 2013, it was right after the crash. And real estate I got in the business because of the flexibility that I needed. So this property, I came across, I hired a virtual assistant from the Philippines, and she was calling ads, for sale by owner ads, on Craigslist. And this was a property in Northern Virginia that originally was on the market, on the MLS, and it did not sell. And then the seller decided to take it off the market and try to sell it for sale by owner. So the reason why it hadn't sold, to be honest with you, was because it had a purple room, a green room, and those plastic accordion type closet doors. So it was all cosmetic, okay? So when I met the sellers, their situation was they needed to they were buying another property, a single family home, and they couldn't afford 2 mortgages, right? So when I came across them and then they told me their situation, I said, are you open to selling your property subject to the existing loan? And at the time, here's a settlement sheet. They had a loan of about $323,000. Fair market value was $385,000. So when I do my numbers, this is a rule of thumb. This is what I do. Even if a house is in great condition, I'm giving you a golden nugget right now. I tell people the most I can pay, okay, for your property is up to 90% of the fair market value. Reason being, right, we're not working with other agents. I will buy it directly from you. I will be the buyer. So we can take out the commissions and closing costs. So commissions will be about 6%, 3% each side, closing costs another 2 to 3%. And most of them, 9 out of 10, will say that's fair. So do you see how I was able to lower the price from the fair market value to the agreed upon price? So that's a way that I can, right off the bat, make a 10% profit margin in my pocket. Okay, and solve someone's situation sooner rather than later, where they don't have to make any updates to the property or put it on the market and wait for it. So that's exactly what I did. And I purchased this property for $4,682. I just paid closing costs. So these are pictures from it. The kitchen was great. It was like a gourmet kitchen. What I did was I put a tenant in there. My exit strategy was finding someone that could rent it, and then I did an option to buy with them. I call them tenant buyers. So that individual gave me a $10,000 non-refundable deposit on this property, and they were paying the rent, every month, which paid the mortgage, which I had taken over subject to. Well, guess what happened? They did not exercise the option to buy the house because they had a job relocation that following year. So I sold it. Okay. I made an update to a bathroom, some minor work, and I sold it on the market. I put it on the MLS, and I sold it 18 months later, and I made a profit of a little bit over $76,000. I had a $10,000 option consideration that got defaulted. Okay. Keep in mind, every time you make a mortgage payment, you get principal balance reduction. So at the time, my principal balance was reduced about $12,000, right? And I sold it for 410,000. And because I was an agent and I listed, I only paid a buyer's agent. Let me put it that way. Any questions with this example so far?
If you could give everybody a brief explanation about subject to, like what the mechanics of it, because some have heard that before and learned it, but some are newer and haven't, you know?
Yes. Oh, and someone asked if I put the 10K against the principal. No, I kept it. My business kept it. I did not put it against the principal. Let me give you some information about what subject to is. Subject to means buying a property subject to an existing loan. You're leveraging a loan that's already in place with the seller. So that means that the loan will stay in place. Okay. There is a deed transfer. I always do a deed transfer, so I have ownership. Okay. But the loan stays in place. So let me ask you this. Do you think the IRS, does anyone care whose name is on the loan? What's more important, whose name is on the deed, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I do is I educate the seller and I say, because I buy properties this way, the loan will stay in place until I sell the property. Now, depending on my exit strategy, sometimes I will give them a time frame, okay, of when I'm planning on selling it. Other times, if my exit is, if I'm planning on holding on to it for 3, 4, 5 years or longer, I won't give a timeline. But I will give you another example where many times they have equity and they're willing to wait for their equity. And that's when I put a timeline.
Okay.
Okay. Let me see. Any other questions? Would you be
Henry had a question about I mean, it's sort of like a rent to own on your exit strategy, but you
Mhm.
also mentioned sandwich leases. And
Yes, so I've done both. So I would when I buy a property subject to the existing loan and I do a lease with an option to buy, okay, that I'm in control, right? And another thing that I want to let you know is I put all my properties in a land trust. So if I put it in a land trust and Gary is my trustee, okay, I position myself to future tenants as a property manager. Especially if you're an agent too, you could be a property manager. I like keeping things on a need to know basis because I found out, being in real estate 22 years, in the beginning, when tenants know that you're also the owner, many times you will get sob stories, things like that. They won't take you seriously, and it's harder for you to do your job. So for me, for asset protection reasons as well, since the deed is in my trustee's name, I can easily say that I position myself as a property manager and I do my job with a tenant that way. Going back to your question regarding sandwich lease options, this is when you do not own a property, but you can control it. For example, if I talk to a seller and they don't want to sell a property to me, but they're willing to give me a lease, a long-term lease, with an option to buy for myself. Then I can turn around and find a new tenant buyer, right? Where I can assign for a different price. And then sandwich lease option means that I'm in the middle, I'm the sandwich. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Now, on the subject too, you're making the payments, the loan payments directly to the lender, right? Yeah, that's gonna be
Yes.
important.
Yes, that's very important. I make all the payments, or I have my property management company. So this is the other thing. When you are a principal to any investment property that you have, you can have your own property management company. So I set up my own property management company, and that way, when I make all the mortgage payments to all my subject to properties that I've purchased creatively, they come from a property management company bank account. And for example, if I ever had a seller, which I've had many times before, say that we need to refinance another residence or something like that, then I can give them proof that payments have been made out of a property management account. So that way, when they need to do any kind of refinance or buy or purchase another property, it won't, the existing property which I've purchased won't count against their debt to income ratio. Does that make sense? Veronica has a question.
Yes. So the loan is still in their name and they're responsible. So are they just like trusting you to make the payments?
Actually, yes. So that's a very good question, Veronica. So this is, let me backtrack for a second. People do business with people they like and people they trust. So my first goal is always to educate the seller, right? Show them that I'm credible. Okay, I mean, like I give them my background. I tell them about my experience in real estate, how I've helped other sellers. I give them testimonials that are even notarized. That's another golden nugget I'm going to give you. I don't know if you do this in your business or not, but from clients that have had great results from you, right? A great experience from you. Have you ever gotten a notarized testimonial that you
Never
can
done that.
use
Yeah.
to get potential new clients?
No.
Yeah, that's huge. I invite you all to think about that. I even bought a house from a former federal judge, and I didn't know he was a judge. I structured it creatively. I didn't know he was a judge till the day after closing when I got the testimonial from him. So that was like the most amazing gift surprise. I was like, ah! Part of me, I'm glad I didn't know, because I probably would have been a little nervous that he would be, dissecting all my legal documents, tougher than anyone else. But he was super, excited about my service. So regarding attracting opportunities, many of you are real estate agents and you already have a big clientele. So imagine having this tool in your toolbox where you can now solve their problems, sellers' problems, or they can refer you to a friend or a family member, and you have the option to put on a different hat. And the way I see it is being an agent is great for active income, but being an investor is even greater for building wealth. And for me, I put the investor hat on first. Okay, my intention is always to solve the seller's problem as soon as I can, right? And they're gonna get the same results. But if I had a choice between making a $10,000 or $15,000 commission by listing a property and solving their same problem the same way, even faster, I could close in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And if they were willing to wait for equity, for example, and they would get the same net, they would get the same net, right? But I had the opportunity to make 50K or 70K or 100K, which has happened. Which option would you take?
Mhm.
And they would still be happy and ecstatic with you, and they would still love you. So yes, let's go to the second misconception, that you need to, like, leverage is key, in my opinion. And I always like to work smarter than harder. That's why I say leverage is key. Do you know that you could even get paid to buy a house? So this is a property. Yeah, Giselle, yeah, the investor had. This is a property I purchased from a colonel in the military. This property was gorgeous, brand new, only 4 years old. I did not even put a coat of paint in this one. I got it from a direct mail marketing campaign. Oh, by the way, I always buy houses in the winter months. As soon as September rolls around and schools open, from September until March, traditionally the real estate market slows down, right? And that's the best time for me to purchase properties, and I have always been buying properties. So this house was on the market in November, right before Thanksgiving. It was gorgeous, 4 bedroom, 3.5 bath, 3,300 square feet. And the owner was a colonel in the military, and he had only had it for 1 year. And because he only had it for 1 year, think about it, the price, the fair market value did not appreciate that much. So when he went to put it on the market, this is back in, 2015. When did I buy it? I bought this in like 2017, 18. And like the appreciation had not been that much. So when he wanted to put it on the market and sell it with an agent, when we take into account commissions and closing costs, he would have had to bring money to the table. Excuse me. So when I educated him and I did the numbers, he realized that he was prepared. So because I gave him two options, I said, listen, you either have the option to short sell it, okay, because where your loan is right now, what fair market value is, and after you pay closing costs and commissions, you'll bring money to the table, or you'll pay someone. And because his credit was important to him, him being in the military, he knew that. So he brought, this is my purchase and sales agreement, a very simple 2-page purchase and sales agreement. And the bank loan at the time balance was 467,000. The purchase price was 418. Why? 90% of the fair market value, right? So 418 was a 90% of the fair market value, and there was a difference of almost $50,000. So we closed in 2 weeks, and this is cash, this is the settlement sheet, cash to borrower to me, because after the closing costs got paid, I got $43,000.
Hmm.
And the seller, his wife was an attorney in New York as well, and he was in the military. This is not the first property I've gotten paid for, paid on. When you solve someone's problem and they understand the value that you bring to them, I've gotten paid on a lot of properties. Giselle, yeah, the most I pay for a property is 90% of fair market value. And Michael is correct. It was a VA loan. So this is, Michael, I'm glad you mentioned this. So when I'm dealing with a VA loan, I let the seller know that they cannot use their VA benefits until I sell the property. And many times I may walk away from a deal. I may not buy it creatively, or I'll give it to someone else who can list it. Because I'm not an active agent at this time. Even though I'm thinking about getting my license again, I focused more on the investor side. So I had agents on my team that would list the property if it didn't meet my buying criteria. Now, this particular seller, even though it was a VA loan, he was willing to wait. He said, that's fine. I'm moving to Tennessee. I'm not planning on buying another property for a couple of years. I don't care about my VA benefit. You can hold off, I'm willing to wait. So that's what happened.
Hey, Naya, we know a really good team that you might want to join when you're ready.
Okay, sounds
Get the
good.
license.
Thank you.
Actually, we're all over the country. Your few would literally fit right in.
Perfect.
We're in
Well,
38 states. Yeah.
Come on
Hey,
in.
hey, I wanted to mention something to Mike. Mike, unless things have changed, Mike, on the VA assumptions, if a veteran assumes another veteran's loan, then the selling veteran will regain all their eligibility. If a non-veteran assumes a veteran loan, it's not a one or all type thing. It's actually a dollar amount. So they have eligibility up to, like, say, $1 million or something. So if they only have outstanding a $500,000, they still have a $500,000 to work with. So it's based on amount. It's not based on just you own one house at a time kind of thing. Unless the rules have changed, that's the way it was before.
Correct. That's true, Gary. And last year I bought 2 properties from sellers and it was the same seller, and I bought 2 of his properties, and they were both VA loans. Both properties were VA loans. And I don't do formal assumptions, by the way. When I'm talking about buying houses subject to the existing loans and buying this way, none of this is a formal assumption, because I don't give my credit score to anyone. I don't give my financials to anyone to approve me. So imagine how much easier this is, right?
Mhm.
So yes. So there you have it. That you can close a creative deal. You can even get paid to buy a property.
Mhm.
How many of you would like to get paid?
Oh yeah.
to buy a brand new house, right? And then you can turn around and rent it. So this is what I did on that example. It was amazing because I bought it in 2019. This is what happened. I bought it in 2019 and I rented it out for 2 years. And right after COVID, I sold it in 2021. My tenant moved out. And you all know the market. Houses appreciated. Guys, I got paid $50,000 to buy it, and I sold it and I made $110,000 profit because of the
Hmm.
appreciation in 2 years. So, like, think about that, the power of leverage. It's huge. How many transactions do you have to do? And the other benefit to that is this. What's the difference? Right now, any active income you have, right, as an agent, you're paying taxes as ordinary income at the highest tax bracket, right? After all your expenses and everything, right? But when you buy an investment property and you hold it for 12 months or longer, okay, it's a different category. You're going long-term investing, it's passive. So when you sell it, you're paying capital gains versus ordinary income taxes. Okay,
Much
Lisa,
better.
What about the due on sale clause in the seller's existing mortgage? Very good question, Lisa. I like that. Okay, I let them know. So I disclose my purchase sales agreement has a paragraph that says I notify them that all loans nowadays have a due on sale clause, and it means that if the lender finds out that there has been a deed transfer, they have a right to call due the loan. Now, let me ask you this. If a loan is current, if you have a performing loan, will anyone put it in the non-performing category? Would a lender, will a bank in their right mind take a performing loan and put it in the non-performing category?
Nope.
You got it. I've worked with a lot of underwriters, and that's exactly what they'll tell you. And one of the disclosures, it's all about documentation and protecting yourself, right? So I get documents, closing, signed by the sellers, saying, acknowledging about the due and sell clause. Okay, and then I also get a power of attorney, a limited power of attorney for the property. I get an authorization to contact the lender. So I protect myself. So it's super important to have the documentation to make sure that you do this right. Because I know some people have tried to do creative deal structuring and do subject to deals, and if they don't do something right, it can bite you. You're behind.
One technique too, and I think you mentioned earlier, you like putting your properties in trust. So guys, when Congress wrote this legislation, it was like 1986, and they put in there a clause. This is when, see, back before that, guys, anybody could assume any loan anytime. I assume loans without even, the lender didn't even know who I was. I never got credit checked or anything. But in the legislation, they put this one sentence that said the due on sale clause is executable except in the case when the house is in a trust. They can't call the note due when a house is in a trust.
Okay,
So
Gary,
that's,
fantastic point. What you just said is IRS, IRS passed a law for estate planning. This is all about estate planning purposes. What you mentioned is all regards to estate planning. And when people do estate planning and they put their property in a trust for estate planning purposes, okay, the bank cannot call that loan due. So let me tell you something. Guess what name I put in the trust?
Property manager.
IRS can't touch this property name. No, just kidding.
Yes. So Gary, if I'm buying your property, I will put it in the Wilson Trust.
Yeah.
So it looks like estate planning. Guys, I'm giving you a lot of golden nuggets.
Yeah.
And I love the questions, and I love what you're bringing up. And Henry,
Yep.
you mentioned what recommendation do I have for an agent who wants hands-on experience learning creative financing? I'm right here. Like my company and I, this is what I do. I'm more than happy to speak with you and help you out. I've created a course around it. I have a community around this. I'm on a mission to create 1,000 multimillionaires. I would love some of you to join us. That's it. That's I'm all about showing people how to work smart, not hard.
Yeah.
Let's go on the next one. Any other questions up until this point?
Yeah, well, Giselle does. I think Giselle, was your question about how she wants to know how you structured the deal so you actually got money as the buyer at closing. If just maybe one example, if you can.
I was gonna say that again,
Is that right,
Gary.
Giselle? Giselle, did I get that right?
That is correct, Gary.
On the last settlement sheet where you got paid 43,000, like the
Mhm.
seller got his 50 and she's wanting to know how did that, like the mechanics, how that occurred, how did that happen that you got the 43,
So I'm not sure. Okay, so let me walk you through. Our purchase and sales agreement was a lower price than the loan balance. And because I purchased the property subject to the original loan balance, so in essence, I paid, in essence, my number that I took over was higher than our purchase price, then the seller brought the difference to the table. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the
Wow.
seller brought the money, like they had the money, they brought the money.
Correct. Correct. And
I see.
don't, and this is another thing I want to tell you. Don't make assumptions. One, and I'm gonna, in this example right here will give you the, it's a great example on how not to make assumptions if about a seller situation, whether they have money or they don't have money, or if they have equity and you think that they want the equity or they need it right now. Okay, Liz, I guess more questions. Another question. Hold on, is there another?
George is asking, how do you get financing on the property? So George, let's see, just briefly, in Canada, I used to live in Canada. Canada doesn't have a secondary mortgage market. They don't sell their loans. So there's no secondary market. So George, in Canada, you generally, when you buy a house, you have to get a brand new mortgage. What Nye is doing is he's taking over the existing mortgage. She's not really getting financing. So
Correct.
that's the key. Yeah.
That's the key. I'll leave the existing financing in place. And I have found title, I do a regular closing with an attorney or a title company. It just stays in place. And I even buy title insurance.
How would the
Yeah.
seller?
And real briefly, hey, Henry, on creative financing, in the 6th book, I wrote the Massive Passive Cash Flow book. Chapter 6 was all on creative purchasing techniques. So Beverly's going to listen to this. Beverly, if you can put that chapter in the email tomorrow to everyone from class, so they'll have that, that would be great. And Henry, we'll teach other classes on that and coming up in the spring. So, but right now you'll get that chapter. You can read all about it, and we can have one-on-ones about it too. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. And Giselle, if they have equity, do I structure seller finance for that part? Yes. Okay. This is an example of someone that has a lot of equity. So this was an expired listing, property, and the sellers contacted me. I had sent them a letter, and they contacted me. They had another property on the market as well, which was under contract. So they were tired landlords. Let me give you a little background. I always tell people, my clients that I work with, you're not looking for houses. I say you're looking for people that have real life situations that happens to have a house that goes along with it. And then your goal is to solve that life situation. So this is like my lead sheet that I would write things down, the property information, the year that was built. I ask questions about the loan. I ask about their situation, what's going on. So for this example, this particular property, they were renting it out for the last 7-8 years. So they had tenants, and sometimes they paid, sometimes they didn't. They got tired of being landlords. And the main situation that they had is that the husband, Carl, recently had surgery. And I didn't know this when I spoke to Rebecca on the phone. And she told me that he did like therapy like every week. And I said, well, it's important for me. It's a company policy to make sure all owners are present. When we look at a property to see if it meets our buying criteria. So we scheduled an appointment like right after like a therapy, like a physical therapy session that he had. When I met them, I found out that he had his legs amputated. And for him, it was like it was devastating. They had other life situations that they were dealing with. And this house was such a burden to them. and their other property. They had 2 rentals at the time, and it was such a burden. So once I saw that, and by the way, we looked at the property and then we went to a local Starbucks to have a chat. And my goal, because I made an assumption, let me tell you the assumption. They had a lot of equity. This property was, their asking price was like $390, and they had over $100,000 in equity. And in my mind, I was thinking originally, there's no way I'm going to get this deal. They will need their money now. Who knows? But in my mind, I said, you know what? I have nothing to lose. Let me just go on the appointment. So I went on the appointment. My goal was to make them my friend first. And especially after I saw that Carl had been through so much with having his legs amputated, he was diabetic. I said, you know what can I do to make him smile, make him forget for a short period of time what's going on in his life? That was my goal. So when we were at the Starbucks and we were chatting, that it's the human experience. We talked about 40 minutes and everything about but real estate. And I was able to get his mind off of the challenges that they had been going through the last couple of months. So when we actually got to talking about the property, one of the things I had done, I'm giving you another golden nugget. When my trainings, one of the things that I give to all my students, my clients that I work with, I give them a seller report to give to the sellers before you go on an appointment. So this report gives credibility, plants the seeds. And one of the things that it does is it plants seeds on how we buy houses or how I buy houses. So when we sat at the Starbucks and we were talking, and I asked them, did you have an ability, were you able to look at their report? And Rebecca was like, yes, we did. It seems like it's too good to be true. And I said, well, that's why I'm here, to show you that we can make it work. Long story short, because I found out that their other property was under contract, I asked them a very important question. And that's why I'm telling you, don't make assumptions. I said, do you need the money now? And their response was no. Okay. So now I knew that, I can leverage. They're willing to wait for their equity. So I asked them, I said, when we did our numbers backwards and we worked our net equity worksheet, which is a document that I worked back the numbers backwards, they had about $120,000 in equity. And I said, if you're willing to wait to get paid when we get paid, then I can give you this full amount. They agreed. So in the property, I only put about less than $5,000 in it, because they had already painted it, new carpet and everything. I just put tile in the kitchen. So this is the settlement sheet. I purchased this property for $5,420. I only paid closing costs. Look at line 206 on the settlement sheet on the Alta. The existing loan was $200K, and I gave them a promissory note of $120,000 at a 0% interest rate with a term of 5 years, 60 months. Okay, questions? I see some hand raised. Okay, Giselle asked if I was making monthly payments to them. Nope. If I wanted to, could I? Yes. But did I want to? No. Because I rented it out. And this is the cool thing is because it had a lower mortgage, the fair market rent was the mortgage amount was $1,200 a month. Fair market rent was like 22, 24. I was cash flowing over $1,000. Like I sold it a year later so I could pull the money out. I would have kept it. I wish I should have kept it because I was cash flowing. I was getting principal balance reduction. I should have kept it for the 5 years for the whole term, or if I sold another property, pay their promissory note and keep that loan in place. Because guess what, guys, the last 15 years or so since the market crashed, since 2009, besides this year, what has happened to the interest rates? Where have interest rates been?
Yep.
The dirt.
In the dirt. They were low. I've been buying houses at 3% interest rate, 3.5% interest rate.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live, be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to realestatewithgarywilson.com, click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care.
So imagine
something
never
else-
did that.
Something else, guys, remember, when you're assuming a mortgage, let's say it had a typical 30-year amortization, 30-year term and 30-year amortization, the term matched the amortization. When you assume a loan, if you assume it 10 years in, that means you've only got 20 years of payments left. And your payments are more principal and less interest than if you got a brand new mortgage. So it's even better because you're paying that thing down much more rapidly.
Yes, a lot more of that mortgage payment goes towards the principal balance, a bigger amount. Eliza, am I pronouncing your name right? You have your hand up? You have a question?
Oh,
Oh, no,
Eliza,
I
yeah,
was
we
just
call her.
Lisa. No, I was just admiring, or just
Okay,
admiring. Yeah.
okay, awesome. And yes, I bought this property subject to, and not a formal assumption. So, and then I sold it a year later, and I sold it for $399,000. I got paid $53,000, okay, from the difference. But in essence, I made more money because remember when I said I was cash flowing for 12 months, and I netted about 62,000 on this property in 12 months. Where if what I would have made in commission, okay, would have been less than $12,000, and I would have had to have it split with my broker. What's better, 12,000 or actually less than 10,000, depending where, or 62,000? And one is ordinary income, the other one is capital gains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see why I'm so passionate in showing everybody how to do this, how to leverage, how to work smarter, and how to create wealth for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And here I have a picture of a house that I bought that I moved in there myself with my family. It was in a gated community on a golf course. And you never know where you're going to find a seller or when an opportunity comes up. I was at a UPS store checking my UPS box, and I was on the phone with one of my contractors, I believe, and the guy behind the counter was. He asked me a question. He's like, "Well, well, what are you? Are you an agent? What are you?" I was like, "No, I buy houses. I've been an agent." Um, Come to find out, he was a retired CIA agent working part time at the UPS store. So he told me about this property. I went to look at it. I bought it. He paid me to buy his house because he had bought it at the peak of the market in 2007 for over 800,000. And he had loans, and I purchased it subject to the existing loans. He paid me $65,000 to buy the house. All I'm saying though is, and being an agent, how many of you have had a hard time getting a loan because of you're an agent, commissions and numbers don't make sense for you to get a loan yourself? Has anyone had any issues with that?
The early days, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Learning how to use this strategy, you don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
So that's it's. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You can attract opportunities. You can close creative deals when you know how to do it, right? You can like ask questions, ask the sellers questions. Don't make assumptions, and instead of only working for active income, because being an agent, if you stop being an agent, there's no money coming in, right? Where if you wear the investor hat, you can build wealth for yourself and your family. So that's what I'm here for. And here's a case study last year of two students of mine right here. These kids are engineers in their 20s, and I took them under my wing about a year ago. And this is a property that they found this past summer. It was a referral. The mortgage was behind a few months. The seller was behind their mortgage and their HOA payments. So they purchased this subject to creatively. Okay, they brought $19,000 to the table. The sales price, what was the sales price? $315. Okay, an interest rate of 3.875. So the seller got $12,000 based on the numbers, and they fixed it up and they sold it in 90 days. Oh, it was almost exact 90 days, and they made $118,000 profit. They put $30,000 into it, $30,000 or $40,000, and then they sold it for 500K. They sold it in August. So yeah. So like this is a little Thanksgiving email they sent to me because they were on the verge of quitting real estate and not doing it at all before they met me. And since then, the deals that they've done and I've helped them do and we've done together, they're on track to do $1 million in 2024 with the things that they have in place. So again, I'm on a mission to create 1,000 multimillionaires, and I created a community called Grateful Family Partners because I believe it's all about family. We're grateful family partners with each other as a mastermind, as a community, but also grateful family partners with the sellers, the people we serve and who we help move on with their lives. So for me, being Greek, my background, family is everything. So my goal is to show individuals how to 10x themselves, how to work smart, not hard. And yeah, that's my goal. Gary, you're on the same path too, right? You're showing agents how to become investors as well.
Yep. In fact, that was in Dan Kennedy's, the whatever that upper level was, I forget, up in Toronto. His Dan Sullivan's coaching
Yeah,
program for a while. Yep.
yeah,
So
Dan
yep,
Sullivan is amazing.
yep. And
So,
the 10x guys, where this comes from is, see, a lot of people when they set their goals, will say, well, I'm going to double my sales for next year, for example. But that doesn't require your subconscious mind to come up with a different way of thinking. So your thinking has to change. You've got to push yourself, set that goal way up there, so your subconscious mind goes to a different level of thinking, because it's going to take a different level of thinking to 10x your production versus just simply doubling it. Doubling it, all you're going to do is work harder.
work harder. So let me tell you something. A way you can 10x things and doing things differently is, imagine how many transactions, look at your average commission. How many transactions would you have to do $1 million? Let's say, for example, in a year. I was talking to an agent a few weeks ago, and he said he did $250,000 in 2023. And he's like, I want to do $1 million in 2024. All I need is 118 transactions, because my average transaction is $12,000, and I want to do 1.3 so I can net 1 million. So that's how he came to his number of 108 transactions. All I said to him was, well, what if you took 10 of those transactions or potential listings, and instead of you doing a listing presentation to make $12,000, what if you positioned it using, wearing the investor hat first, and you ended up making 50 or $100,000 profit on the same deal? How many transactions would you do then? Can you imagine doing 10 transactions that each makes you $50,000 profit? There's a $500,000 that you could build in equity. So, Lisa, in MLS here, it is very common to see no subject to, no signs. I guess this is best with off market. Correct. If they say, I don't find my deals in the MLS. The majority of my deals, I would say over 90% of them have been off market, or referrals. If it's in the MLS, it's been on the market for a couple of days, for multiple days, over 40 days on the market. And why? Let me get, you guys are all agents here. What are the 3 reasons why a house won't sell? What's the first reason?
Not priced right.
Price,
Price. What's the
Price, yeah.
second reason?
price, condition,
Condition, yeah, or a combination of the two. And the third reason?
Location.
okay.
You got it. So if a house is on the MLS, so if I'm talking to a seller whose property has been on the MLS, 9 times out of 10, guess who they're blaming?
The agent.
The agent. The agent. And the truth of the matter is, the issues are overpriced, or the condition, okay, or a combination of the two. And then I educate them. I sit in front of them and I tell them this is what the fair market value of the property is based on comparables or things like that. And if they do business with me, they cancel or terminate their listing agreement. All right, before we go, how are we doing on time? I don't know how, we're right on the 1 hour. Do you guys have a few more minutes?
We generally will let everybody know, hey, it's 8 o'clock. If you got to go, we understand, but we'll stay on. I've stayed on usually a half hour later. We've gone as late as 10 o'clock in some classes.
Oh, wow. Okay,
So,
fantastic. Good. Well, we won't be here until 10. But but this is exciting. This is an example. Tom on my team. Tom, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Tom.
Tom is amazing. He's been in real estate 20 years, 21 years. He's done over 300 240 deals. Okay, he's wholesaled a lot of deals too. He is an agent, and this is a property he purchased last year, and he made $22,000, 22.5 in commissions, and not commissions, in a wholesale fee. But technically, it's almost like a commission. But he assigned a wholesale fee, and if he had done this differently, his numbers would be very different now. So Tom, tell us about your experience.
Well, obviously working with you, Naya, my mind has been wide open. You know, active income, whether it's commission or fees, has been my focus. And at 57 now, I'm focusing a lot more on passive. But I negotiated this deal with buyer and seller, including my fee, and all of the properties, in this case, 5 properties, they've doubled in value in the last 3 years. And they've cash flowed the whole time. So if I had $75,000 when I did this deal, I could have bought it.
Mm-hmm.
So lesson learned, Naya.
I know you won't make that same, you won't get that, that lesson, you won't learn it the same exact way. You'll do it differently next time. I won't call it a mistake. It's a great lesson. So that's the power of, creative deal structuring, creative financing. This is what you can do. So what we've put in place is, like I said, I've been in real estate for 22 years and coaching investors and agents all over the country. I realized that people struggle and they have similar struggles, similar challenges. And many times, and it starts with energy, who they are first. If it's an internal game, the identity piece. If people don't have the identity they need to have in order to get the results they want to get, they won't get them. And then it goes to strategy, and then picking your criteria. This is a marketing business, right? After all, and learning how to structure deals differently, because you have to rewire what you think. You got to do things a little differently when you do creative deals, subject to deals, and you can get to the closing table. And the goal is to always exceed the seller's expectations. In my opinion, sellers become for me, they become very good friends, almost like extensions of my family. So that's how I treat people that I work with, and my goal is maximize everyone and bring as much value as I can. So for us, what we're doing, since it's the beginning, it's still the new year. I say Happy New Year because it's still the whole month of January. I say Happy New Year because it's January is the first month of the year. What I'm doing with Tom is I'm looking for individuals that I can get to their first creative deal in 90 days. So if anyone is interested, we're happy to schedule like a wealth roadmap, like a strategy call to look at where you are right now and to see, where you want to go. And if it's a possibility for us to be aligned, an opportunity for us to work together. So Tom, you can put that link in the chat if you like. If anyone would like to, and this is a complimentary, first of all, you'll get a lot of value from it. I guarantee it, about yourself. And
What we'll do tonight is I'll have Beverly put this in the outgoing email tomorrow. So there's probably 30 some odd people in the night, but it'll go out to several hundred people tomorrow.
Fantastic.
The recording. Yeah.
And we also,
too, so.
I invite you to join our community. We have a Facebook group of over 8,000 real estate professionals, well through real estate. Tom, you can put that Facebook group as well, please. And yeah, we would love to see action in the Facebook group as well.
Yeah. Well, and what we'll do, guys, is because of the connection with Anna, um, and some of you probably know who Anna is. I know Andre does. And it goes back a long, long time. This is pretty solid, and this stuff works. I've worked on these deals before. I've never done a subject to, but back in the recession years, I mean, we were just buying properties for pennies on the dollar all over the place. It was ridiculous. Um, and the question came up, does this work in the expensive markets? It absolutely does. I mean, Naya's up in Northern Virginia, which is one of the most expensive markets in the country, you know?
Mhm.
So remember, the fundamentals never change. The fundamentals, the rules of the game apply everywhere. What's different is the market dynamics, you know, how expensive, how cheap, the volume, all this stuff. But that doesn't affect the formulas. The formulas always work. Um, so, and by the way, Anna and her husband Rick do this on a regular basis. In fact,
Actually,
I'm their
I helped
trustee.
them do their first deal. I helped them. I coached them.
Yep, yep. And they're good. They are really good at. I mean, guys, I'm telling you, they're so good. They're on vacation more than they're not on vacation. You know. Do you know them, Tom? Tom, do you know Rick and Anna?
Well, when we did the Fredericksburg RIA training the other
Yeah.
night, I got a chance to meet them. Wonderful people.
Okay. Yeah. And by the way, guys, remember, if you start your own investor club, right? Remember, that's one of the things that we teach using Meetup. Meetup, Meetup is free. And if you do it the right way, um, you'll have people like Naya coming to teach your group. Okay. So, um, you know, it doesn't, you're not pushing the boulder uphill. Once you have a group of investors, I mean, you know, there's no telling how many people will knock on your door, right, to teach. So, in any case, so this was one I endorse, and I don't get anything out of this other than having you guys get more education, and it's in addition to what the team already has. Um, so very complimentary. I mean, it's the stuff you guys can use yourself personally, and a lot of these techniques you can bend them, shape them, mold them. Like when the one deal and I had where she gave the seller a note for 120,000 with no interest and no, and the term was 5 years.
Payments, yes, yes.
Yep. Well, think about it. Let's say the guy wanted his money sooner, right? Or he wanted some type of payment. She could have offered him less, maybe
Right.
80,000 for 2 years with a 10%. See,
Exactly.
that kind of stuff you can do. The net is what you're looking for in the length. It's all about time and money. It's the relationship of time and money. So when you understand the seller's needs, and once you do one or two of these, I promise you, it starts to come naturally, you know? So you get used to solving problems, which was what we already do. We already solve problems for our buyers and sellers, right?
George is asking a
Who
good
here
question.
feels like the wheels are turning?
Yes, George
Anybody,
said,
just raise your hands or say yes in the chat box. Does this get your wheels turning?
yeah, in the chat,
Good to know.
please say if any questions or unmute yourself. I want to answer George's question. He said, "Did you not feel that you were taking advantage of that family?" George, no, because when I did the numbers and I did the net, they would have gotten the same net as they would if they sold the house with an agent at that time. So I did not take advantage of them at all. The only thing I asked them is, are you willing to wait? Do you need the money now? In fact, I did them a favor, and let me tell you why. If I paid them all at once at that time, because of capital gains of them selling 2 investment properties, they would have gotten hit harder tax wise.
Yep.
So look at the tax benefit to the seller too. If they could do seller financing, or if they do if you could do terms on that. I've done so many deals. If I tell you, I did a deal with a free and clear property where the seller became the bank for me at a 0% interest rate for 10 years. I brought 10% down, okay? So it was like a $450,000 house. I bought it for 400. I bought $40,000 down. I'm making $2,500 monthly payments to them, and I'm renting it out. Right now, I increased the rent to $4,000. So I'm cash flowing $1,500 a month, and I'm getting principal balance reduction of $30,000 a year. It will be paid off in 3 years. But the seller had a free and clear house, they didn't need the money. So why wouldn't you structure something like that?
Yep.
So I would love, your top 2 insights. If people can give me some feedback, that would be fantastic.
Well, I want to start some Q&A with the guys here. Remind you, remember guys, we had a class last year about exactly this time of year, it was into January. And it was a guy, I think he was in Colorado or Kansas. And his program was, he wasn't teaching you how to assume mortgages. What he was doing is acting as a go-between. And remember what he taught us about how many mortgages are assumable today? It's an amazing, people always think you can't assume mortgages anymore. Not true. You can assume mortgages. And if you do them inside a trust, you can do the subject to inside or outside of a trust. To me, I'm Mr. Conservative, so I would probably use a trust.
Yes,
But
I agree.
you can, yeah. So subject to is, remember, you're making the payment directly to the bank. Okay, you're not going through the current owner. That's how you ensure the payments get made, right? There's a lot of other strategies where if you do like a land trust or land contract, there's risk there. If the seller goes through a divorce or something or whatever, to get hit by a bus, I mean, the results can be disastrous. Not here,
No, you
So they've
protect
got,
yourself.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Well, I
So
love it, Trevor.
remember,
I love the comments, the creativity, mind blowing. Michael, yes. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and the trust idea. Yeah, land trust to do
yeah,
subject to takeaways that you can structure seller finance without monthly payments. You can. The terms, it's up to you to structure the terms. It's up to you and the seller what you agree on, right? I always ask what their needs are. So the more questions you ask to get a deeper understanding of what their real situation is, then you can create a win-win transaction. Michael's asked me, do I have issues with taxes? No. Actually, no. I minimize the amount of taxes I pay.
yeah.
Yes, and I do use depreciation on my assets. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll take that one a step further. If it's an investment property, guys, remember, the term is called cost segregation. Your house depreciates at a certain rate, right? 27 and a half years. But appliances, lawn equipment, snow removal equipment, all that stuff is considered chattel and depreciates at a faster rate, like 5 years, 7.5 years, that kind of thing. So cost segregation is taking all that, the chattel, spinning it off separately and depreciating that at a faster rate. And what it does is it offsets your income, right? So you actually looks like you are, in fact, not look like it, they actually are making more money. In fact, in big commercial properties, did you know a lot of those commercial deals are done strictly to take advantage of cost segregation? It's so powerful. You can do that on a single family home as long as it's an investment property. You can do that. You
Yes.
know,
And especially if you renovate it or if you do any improvements initially when you first buy it. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point.
yeah. So, um, so guys, this is one I think I'm going to do myself because I'm actually looking at getting a property or two, one or more in Virginia Beach, and my dad's up in uh, Beverly Hills in Alexandria, right across the walkway from Shirlington,
Mhm.
about 5 minutes from the Pentagon. So I want to get a place up there, get close to him. I'm out here in Charlottesville now because my mom's, we're helping care for her.
Okay.
But I like doing stuff like this. I don't like to take on more headaches or more work. I don't want more work. And this does make it easier because Virginia Beach, think about the possibilities for an exit strategy there. You
Oh,
got the
yeah.
midterm renters, traveling businessmen, traveling nurses, sports and entertainment. All those people need short-term places to live in. I can rent those places for a lot more money. Same thing up in Northern Virginia. I
Yeah.
mean, Naya, how active is we used to call it corporate housing. So these are, the people are there for greater than a month and less than a year, but you get double the prevailing rents. I mean, I'm sure with the government and Beltway, it's just massive business up there.
Yes, I have actually one of my business partners, and she's a grateful family partner. She specializes in medium-term rentals, and
Yep.
and right now she has relationships with insurance companies, and they're they need a portfolio of properties. Like she doesn't have the quantity that they want,
Yeah.
and they're willing to pay 2 to 3 times fair market rent.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And imagine
Yep.
an
Very little
insurance
overhead.
yeah, it's amazing uh, the opportunity that's out there. Or traveling nurses.
Yep. They don't come with their kids and dogs. They come to work. They usually fly home on the weekends, and sometimes their employer pays the rent. You
Hmm.
know, little wear and tear. You're not turning a place over every week like an Airbnb. You don't have the see with long-term rentals, the laws are continuing to lean more towards tenant rights and away from owner rights. At the midterm rentals, you don't have those headaches.
That's
You
true.
know, you don't have those problems. Uh, lots of possibilities here, guys. So, and I've been thinking about this too because I can sense the market is, we don't have a crystal ball, and I wish I could tell you exactly what's going to happen. I don't, but my gut tells me, these next 2 years are going to be, it's going to be a challenging times. But what does that mean? It means opportunity time.
Opportunity. Yeah.
You know,
Always. Always.
I know. I see Eric. Eric's got his
He's
we call him
smiling.
fluffing the dendrites. Yeah.
Let me tell you a little bit about my story. In 2008, when the market crashed, and we had to short sell our house because our property in 2007, our fair market value was 750,000, and when the market crashed, we had to short sell it for half, for like 385 in 2010, and that was devastating. And being a young mom with little kids, because I wasn't working, I remember feeling like, you know what? Next time this comes around, I'm gonna be prepared. I remember telling myself that. I didn't know about deal structuring or creative financing back then, but my gut was like, you know what? This is such a big lesson learned, like financially, what happened to my family, that I said, you know what? The cycles are, every 7 to 10 years, this is the cycle, the market cycles. Even though we've been on a more of like a 14-year run, but not a normal cycle.
Yeah.
It's just an opportunity. It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Working smart, not hard.
Yep. It's amazing there. If you think about it, I know George asked a question about the seller. Are we taking advantage of them? And I used to worry about the same thing, George. I mean, when I first got started, but then I realized, you know, they have a problem and we can provide a solution. They
Mhm.
wouldn't do it if it didn't make sense for them. We wouldn't, so the seller wouldn't sell unless it made sense, and the buyer wouldn't buy unless it made sense. The key is, using these techniques to figure out what makes sense for both parties. And that's really what we're doing,
And
you know?
you're buying from I'm buying from educated sellers. I bought a house from a former
Right.
federal judge, okay,
Yeah.
from a colonel in the military. I've even bought houses from real estate agents, by the way, that couldn't sell their
Yep.
own house, okay, like a retired CIA agent, like You're talking about people who are educated. You're not taking advantage of them. You're bringing a solution to the table.
Right.
And if your solution makes sense to them, why not? And then I get some amazing testimonials.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I wish I had a testimonial from a judge. Yeah, that's a, call that a ringer, you know? So, okay, guys, any questions, comments, thoughts? Go ahead, Kathy. Mhm. Oh, I thought Kathy was getting ready to say something.
Oh,
I'll
I'm
say
sorry.
something. This is a great topic. Thank you for teaching. Sub two, creative financing, seller financing, whatever. Now is the time.
yes,
So get educated on it and make offers.
yes, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, I was just gonna say thank you too, Gary. That's all I was doing. I didn't realize I was
Oh,
still unmuted.
that's okay.
And subject to is one of those topics that I don't feel quite as comfortable about. So this is great.
Yeah. Well, that's why we learn. I mean, the best way to overcome fear, hesitation, uncertainty is through education. In fact, that our team motto is, you know, education, the right education plus the right information plus the right action yields the right results, you know?
Absolutely, that's the formula.
Yeah. And Giselle, yes. What's interesting is what we're talking about here, Giselle. In the commercial world, believe it or not, in bigger deals in the commercial world, I mean, you know, giant high-rise apartment complexes and things like that, development, they are so creative. You can't even imagine some of the stuff they're doing sometimes. I mean, I was telling somebody this the other day. I bought a 78 unit building several years ago. It ended up turning into 90 units. And the bank that financed the deal, we actually did it with no money down. 78 unit apartment complex. The property needed a new parking lot, it needed new boilers, it needed all kinds of stuff, several $100,000. So what the bank did is they gave us an initial loan. It looks like a construction loan is what it was. So we had like $1 million on the principal of the primary loan. And then as we completed the parking lot, they gave us a draw to pay for the parking lot. And then when we did the boilers, they gave us a draw to do the boilers. And guess what? At the end, did we use all the money that was held in escrow, by the way? All that excess money was held in escrow. No interest charges. We weren't paying for anything we weren't using. When they gave us the draws, it rolled into the principal, so it added into the principal, right? So 900 something thousand, it was like 950 became 1.2 something over the next year or two, and at the low interest rate. But there was money left in the escrow. What do you think happened to that money? It went in my pocket.
Oh yes, oh yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, Gary, when you're dealing with commercial loans,
Mhm.
it's easier. They have the clauses in there that you could buy them subject to formally.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of what you're learning, guys. I mean, for me personally, the material that I created, a good portion of that came from my experience in the commercial world. I just brought it down into the residential world to make it applicable in a residential world, right? That's all I did. You know, I mean, a lot of it came from the residential world, of course, but some of the creative stuff that you see that we've done comes from the big commercial deals. We're just not used to it in a residential world because our brokers never taught us that. They
Correct.
never taught us,
I
you know?
mean,
Yep.
what's the
So
broker's number one job?
to stay out of trouble.
To stay out of trouble, and that's why you have those 15-page agreements, right, to protect themselves, right?
Yeah.
And they want
And to make a lot of money.
exactly they want to have a bunch of agents working for them, right? To bring
Yep.
in its volume.
Yeah. You know, it's funny now. So I used to have my own brokerage, and then I was with a big box company for a while and traveled all over the US and Canada teaching this stuff. But I wanted to get back closer to the game again. That's why I love having this team. So we're some people call us hybrid agents. I call us investor agents. So we can work with the owner occupants because obviously that's a big part of the business. So we're not going to say no, but we can also work with the investors because we can walk the walk and talk the talk. And by the way, I do want to have another conversation with you, not now, but you know, if you're open to you know exploration discovery, I think there's some great potential here because we're growing. I mean, we started from scratch 3 years ago. We're already in 38 states. You know,
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm
yep,
happy to chat, for sure.
yep, doing stuff like
Lisa
this.
just put a cool question. If the seller transfers the title on the deed and yet keeps the loan stays in place, what is the protection for the seller in case you default? That is a very good question, and this is an objection. Lisa, good job. So what happens? Are there investors out there that are not credible, or they say things and they don't follow through? So in essence, what I will do, and George says exactly, yes, because reputation is everything. If you take advantage of one person, do you think it's going to be hard for everybody to find out? The real estate, the niche, the circle is fairly small in your market, right? So what I say to reassure the seller that I will not default, I tell them, I will deed the house back to you along with any improvements. So every particular case is different, right? So imagine if I paid money, like for like the example that I gave you with the seller financing that free and clear property, and I brought $40,000 to the table. Or the judge. For the judge, I brought $50K to the table because he had $300,000 in equity. Okay, so I put skin in the game. So imagine reassuring a seller that if you default, and that means if I don't pay a $2,000 mortgage or a $2,500 or a three, whatever the number is, I reassure them, do you think I'm going to miss a $2,000 or $3,000 mortgage payment and miss out on my exit where I could make my profit? So in essence, I ask them a question so they can think about it logically and realize that, okay, if she's willing to give me documentation that says if she defaults, she's gonna deed the house back to me, no questions asked, then that can reassure me, right? And especially when I've told them I've never defaulted, and I'm never planning on defaulting because I'm not gonna miss a $2,000 mortgage payment where I could potentially profit 20, 30, 40, 50 on the back end.
Yeah, and guys, there also is another um, legal recourse for the seller. So this might be a surprise because I didn't know this till about I don't know how many years ago, 16, 18 years ago. We've all heard of eviction. We've all heard of foreclosure. Who here knows that there's actually a third process for taking possession back of a property? It's actually called extraction. So it's harder to do than an eviction, but it's not as hard as a foreclosure. And its intent is for situations like this where you did some creative purchasing technique and something went sideways, there's recourse there. You have to show everything just like you do in any court case. Here's all the documentation. Here's what's supposed to happen. Here's what didn't happen, and then it's still up to the judge. But most cases, they're gonna the judge will make things right. But I actually have never heard of this happening in a subject to. I've never heard of a single person would ever walk away from it because the profit's there. But there is something called extraction. It's not very common, but if you ever want to learn more about it, you can ask an attorney and they'll give you the details, or just Google it. You can look it up. But it's sort of a kind of a hybrid thing that's there for situations like that, Lisa.
So for me, Gary, I think this would be more likely to use an extraction if I bought a house creatively subject to, and I also sold it creatively. For example, if I sold
Yeah.
it when I'm seller financing it, okay, And if
Mhm.
my buyer defaults on me, I would use that process like an extraction so I get ownership immediately. Or one of the
Yeah.
things that I would rather do is sell sell to my buyer, contract for deed where I still have ownership.
Hmm.
So I can protect myself even more. I'll answer. Is it Elizabeth? Oh, your question. Oh,
Eliza.
Eliza.
We call her Lisa. Lisa's her last name. Yeah.
Okay. Because on my screen it's after the Z, it stopped. I didn't see the remainder of the name. So how did I get started? Get momentum. I did do a lot of direct mail, and I also had a VA, a virtual assistant, who was calling for sell by owners for me. But I was doing a lot of direct mailers to absentee owners, different targeting campaigns. So that's something that I definitely did. And if you don't have skin in the game to get started, um, how can you leverage? You can use other people's money. If you find a great deal and the numbers make sense, the money is not hard to find. I have private lenders that I work with. One of them last year loaned me $150,000 from a self-directed IRA at a 7% interest rate for year one, 8% for year two. So I have $150,000 that I can leverage, that I can use for 2 years, that I can use on deals.
Yeah. It's an old saying in business, money follows management. In our case, management will be, are we bringing a good deal to the table, you know?
Yeah. Michael, did I use a software to find my target owners, prompts? Yeah, I do have a software that I'm using, Michael. So I don't know if you schedule a call with Tom, or the link. The software that we use is my deal mind, and it's amazing. We're using AI data to find properties. It's a CRM and a lead generation tool. It does some amazing things. So that's it. That could be like another whole hour or two of explaining the tools that we have available to the people we work with. But we don't have time for that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, listen, I really appreciate you. I know we went extra long and um, we really appreciate your kindness in doing that, and Tom for joining also. And if everybody here, especially all the guests, if you're a guest of someone on the team, you're welcome to come to join any Monday Night Live. We opened up to the public probably 2 years ago now. And it's all about, there's a saying in our team in an EXP, which is the rising tide lifts all ships. So it's part of our culture to help the next person get ahead, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah. But
Great.
I'll
Thank you
no,
so much.
I'll shoot you an email. I don't know if you have a scheduling link, but I want to set up a call with you and um, kind of get some exploration discovery going, you know?
That would be
So
fantastic. Yeah, I would enjoy
yeah,
that. Thank you very much, Gary. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
yeah,
And Giselle, would I disclose? Yes, disclose. If you're an agent, disclose to the sellers. But if you're wearing your investor hat, and you've come across sellers that don't want to work with agents, right? They get turned off because of bad experience in the past. So as long as you tell them, I am a licensed agent, but I'm looking at your property because I'm also buying houses and I want to see if your property meets my buying criteria, then it flips. Then they're not worried about that. But if you're a licensed agent, disclose it. I mean, you shouldn't hide it.
yeah.
Okay.
It's never cost me a thing. People used to be worried about that when I got started. They would say, "Don't get your license." There's millions of agents out there, and I thought, "That's crazy. I'm going to get my license because it's going to make it easier." I'm glad I did. Disclose all the time. Never had anybody say no.
Yeah.
You know.
And if
So
you're buying a property for profit, then write a disclosure, right, that says, you're not buying it as an agent and your broker is not liable, and the seller acknowledges that you're buying it for profit, for you to make a profit. As long as they sign that, and it could be like one paragraph, that's it. So thank you all. Great questions, by the way. Okay, from all the talks that I've done, this group brought the most, like the best questions. Like it
Yeah.
did. It did. So I appreciate that.
They're awesome. I mean, I've been with them for several years now. Most of them I knew beforehand, but definitely they're engaged and they're learners and they're action takers. We outperformed the national average by more than 2-1.
I
You know,
believe it.
our team does. So,
I
well,
believe
listen,
it.
guys, appreciate you participating, asking questions, and learning. Next week I'll be going over KV Core with you. Just few basic setting up phone calls and getting your records in and getting your market updates in place. But set up a call with Naya. See where it leads, you know, because I'm doing that.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary, again. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Monday Night Live. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.